Tom Baker turned off the water in the shower and listened for Kate to get up. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the sound of the morning news wafted from the kitchen. A typical Tuesday morning in their suburban Maple Street home. He pulled on his robe and stepped out into the hallway, looking at the pictures on the wall, Kate with the bouquet at the lake, Kate and him on their wedding day, Kate in front of the Christmas tree. Always just recent pictures, always just their life together, as if Kate had no past before him. "Good morning," she smiled, not taking her eyes off the skillet of scrambled eggs. Kate had a special smile, warm but with some elusive tinge of sadness. That smile had turned his world upside down 2 years ago at the local cafe, Frank's. "You have a doctor's appointment today, remember?" she asked, setting a plate of breakfast in front of him. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Tom nodded, sipping his coffee. "I'll stop by after the meeting with the contractors." He watched her move through the kitchen, graceful, feminine. Sometimes he thought Kate was too perfect, trying too hard to be the perfect wife. A memory of their first meeting surfaced in his mind. He was sitting in a half-empty cafe, poring over papers on a new construction project. There were customers bustling around, but it was the woman at the window that caught his attention. Her brown hair gathered in a careless bun, her graceful hands holding a book. She noticed his gaze and smiled that same smile, with a touch of melancholy. "Tom," Kate's voice brought him back to the present. "You're somewhere far away again." "Remembering how we met," he admitted. "You were reading Fitzgerald." "The Great Gatsby," she nodded. "I've always loved stories about those who create themselves anew." The phrase had seemed to him at the time a mere literary musing. Now he sometimes wondered if there was more to it than that. Tom worked as a manager for a construction company called New Horizon. After his divorce from Linda, having lived with her for 15 years, he didn't think he'd ever want to get married again. But Kate was different. Calm, attentive, intriguing. After 6 months of acquaintance, he proposed to her. She didn't say yes right away, as if something was stopping her. "There's something you need to know about me," she said then. But instead of confessing, she simply added, "I won't be able to have children." Tom, who already had a daughter from his first marriage, said it didn't matter. He just wanted to be with her. They married quickly. In a small circle, Kate had no relatives. "All dead," she said briefly. Friends, only Susan Gray, who was her witness at the wedding. "I'm seeing Susan after work tonight," Kate said, putting away the dishes. "I'll be back for dinner." Tom nodded, hiding his sudden irritation. Susan knew everything about Kate, and he, her husband, knew almost nothing. He got up from the table. "I've got to go. I'll see you tonight." Kate pecked him on the cheek, and he noticed her pulling a small box of pills out of her robe pocket. Waiting until he turned away, she quickly swallowed one. He'd noticed those pills months ago. They'd always been with her, though Kate had never mentioned any health problems. The meeting with the contractors dragged on, and Tom barely made it to the clinic by the appointed time. He had known Dr. Jim Parker for a long time. He had been the family doctor when Tom had been married to Linda. "How's Kate?" Parker asked after the usual examination. "She's fine. She seems happy," Tom replied. "She's gotten more clients at the design studio." The doctor nodded, making notes. "She's scheduled to see me next week, a routine checkup." "Doctor?" Tom hesitated. "Have you noticed anything unusual?" "Kate takes some pills regularly, but she never talks about them." Parker looked up from his papers, his face serious. "Tom, I can't discuss a patient's medical issues, even if it's your wife." "I understand," Tom nodded. "I'm just concerned. She never talks about her past. No old photos, no school stories." The doctor put aside his pen and looked at Tom carefully. "How long have you been married?" "1.5 years. But we've known each other a little over 2 years." Parker rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Tom, I want to ask you something delicate. Do you know Kate's previous last name?" The question caught Tom off guard. Clark. Kate Clark, why? What's her full name?" Catherine Clark." Tom frowned. "Why the questions, doctor?" Jim Parker looked uncertain, as if he were grappling with a complex ethical dilemma. "I don't see a patient with that name in my database before her marriage to you," he finally said. Perhaps she had seen other specialists. Something in the doctor's tone alarmed Tom. "There's something else, isn't there?" Parker stood up and walked to the window, clearly avoiding Tom's gaze. "I got her medical records from the other clinic last week. There's some information that surprised me." He turned to Tom. "You said she warned you about not being able to have children?" "Yes," Tom answered slowly. "Is that a problem?" "No, not really a problem." Parker looked away again. Tom, I'm not at liberty to divulge medical information, but as your friend, I think you should talk to Kate. She has important information that she should share with you. Tom's heart sank. Is she sick? Something serious? No, not in the traditional sense of sickness. Parker went back to the table. Just talk to her. All the way home, Tom replayed the conversation in his head. What was the doctor trying to tell him? What was the big deal about Kate's medical records? At home, he opened the bedroom closet where Kate kept her papers. There were her diplomas, her marriage certificate, her insurance, all issued in the name of Catherine Clark. No birth certificate or other documents that might shed light on her past. Suddenly, a box in the back of the closet caught his attention. He had never noticed it before. Inside were several vials of medicine, the names of which told him nothing, and a yellowed envelope. Tom froze with the envelope in his hands, feeling like a traitor. He had trusted Kate, after all. But the doctor's words kept him on his toes. With a heavy sigh, he opened the envelope and pulled out the contents. An old photograph and a document. In the photograph was a teenager, about 16 years old, with short hair and familiar eyes. Kate's eyes. But it was a boy, and the document, a passport in the name of Kevin Matthew Clark. The date of birth matched Kate's. Tom sank down on the bed, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. Kevin? Kate. He remembered the pills, the lack of a past, the inability to have children. The sound of the front door opening brought him back to reality. He hastily put everything back in the box, closed the closet, and stepped out into the hallway. Kate was hanging up her coat by the entrance. "Hi," she said with a smile. "How was your day?" Tom looked at his wife with new eyes, seeing her now as a completely different person. "Fine," he said. "I went to see Dr. Parker." Her face tensed slightly. "And how are your tests?" "They're fine." He paused. "The doctor mentioned that he'd gotten your medical records." Kate froze, her hand reaching up to fix her hair, frozen in midair. "That's how it is," she said quietly. "Is there something you'd like to tell me, Kate?" Tom asked, feeling a strange mixture of fear, anger, and confusion building up inside. She looked at him for a long moment before answering. "I think we need to have a serious talk, Tom." He nodded, realizing that their lives would never be the same again. That conversation never happened. Kate suddenly remembered an urgent order that needed to be turned in by morning and locked herself in her home office. Tom could hear her on the phone. Too long for a work call, too quiet for a normal conversation. It must have been Susan calling. He couldn't sleep at night, tossing and turning, listening to his wife's breathing. Who was she? Or who was he? His thoughts jumbled, forming a toxic cocktail of mistrust and fear in his head. Toward morning, Tom fell into a restless sleep, and when he awoke, Kate had already left, leaving a note about an early meeting with a client. But Tom took the day off, citing indisposition. As soon as the door of their house closed behind him, he returned to the bedroom closet. This time, he methodically went through all of his wife's things, studying every document, every piece of paper. He found no more passport in Kevin's name. Apparently, Kate had hidden it. But he did find a few other oddities. An old high school yearbook with a teenage boy circled in a group photo. Several medical prescriptions in the name of C.M. Clark, name change papers dated 10 years earlier. He spread the evidence he found on the bed, trying to piece together a coherent picture. Then he picked up his cell phone and dialed Susan's number. He needed to meet her right away. "Tom?" Susan sounded surprised. "Is something wrong?" "We need to talk," he said dryly. "About Kate." The pause on the other end of the line was more eloquent than any words. "I'm not sure. In an hour at Frank's Cafe. It's important, Susan." He arrived early and chose a table in the far corner. Susan was 15 minutes late and looked anxious. "Did you talk to Kate?" was the first thing she asked as she sat down across from him. "No, but I found something interesting." Tom leaned forward. "Who is Kevin Clark?" Susan turned pale, her fingers nervously clutching her purse. "Tom, it's not my place to tell you. I'm her husband, damn it!" He pounded his fist on the table, drawing the attention of the other customers. "That's exactly why," Susan replied quietly. "You need to hear it from her." "So there's something to hear?" Tom grinned bitterly. "My wife used to be a man? Is that true?" Susan looked around and leaned closer. "Tom, listen. Kate is your wife. She loves you. What she used to be. So it's true," he whispered, feeling everything inside grow icy. "It's her story," Susan continued insistently. "She was afraid to tell you, afraid you'd turn your back on her. And instead she chose to deceive me for a year and a half?" Tom shook his head. How can you defend a lie like that? It's not a lie. It's a silence, Susan countered. She was going to tell you when she was ready, when she was sure you'd understand. Understand what? That I'd married? He couldn't finish the sentence. A woman who loves you more than life, Susan finished it for him. Who fears losing you every day, who went through hell to be herself. Tom shook his head and stood up. I have to go now. Tom. Susan grabbed his hand. Please don't do anything stupid. Just talk to her. He wrenched his hand away and headed for the exit. One thought pulsed in his head. To Dr. Parker. Now. He burst into the clinic without an appointment and demanded to see him. The receptionist tried to stop him, but he ignored her and swung the office door open. Dr. Parker was on the phone, but at the sight of Tom, he hurriedly ended the conversation. Dr. Parker, Tom, what's wrong? You knew, Tom said accusingly, closing the door behind him. Knew and kept quiet. Parker sighed, taking off his glasses and wiping them with a tissue, a gesture he always did when he was nervous. I'm bound by doctor-patient confidentiality. To hell with secrecy, Tom shouted. My wife... He paused, unable to say it out loud. Sit down, please, the doctor said quietly. Tom sank into the chair, feeling a sudden weakness in his legs. I want to know the truth, the whole truth. Parker stared at him for a long moment, then nodded some thoughts of his own. You've already guessed it, haven't you? He began cautiously. I can't discuss specific medical details, but... Yes, Kate went through a transgender transition, a complete sex change. It's a long and difficult process, both physically and psychologically. The doctor's words fell like heavy rocks, pressing Tom into the chair. You mean I slept with a man? He wheezed. No, Parker objected firmly. You slept with a woman, your wife, transgender people. Spare me the lecture, Tom interrupted. Why didn't she tell me before the wedding? Fear, the doctor answered simply. Rejection, loss. Can you imagine what it would be like to finally be who you've always felt you were, to find love, and to be afraid every day that everything would fall apart if the truth came out? It's still a lie, Tom repeated stubbornly. Yes, Parker agreed. And it's wrong, but it's important to understand why. And the pills? Suddenly remembered Tom. She's always taking some kind of medication. Hormone therapy, the doctor explained. It's a lifelong process. Tom stood up, feeling like he was suffocating. I have to go. Tom, Parker called out to him. What are you going to do? I don't know, he answered honestly. But my life for the last 2 years has been built on lies. How am I supposed to live with that? He left the clinic and wandered around the city for a long time, not noticing neither people nor cars. Scraps of memories swirled in his head, Kate's gentle hands, her laughter, her body. A body created by surgeons and hormones, artificial, fake. Toward evening, Tom returned home. The light was on in the living room. Kate was waiting for him. She was sitting on the couch, clutching a cup of long cold tea. Her eyes were red with tears. Susan called, she said quietly. Dr. Parker, too. Tom stood silently in the doorway, unable to look at her. I should have told you sooner, Kate continued. I was so afraid. Every day I thought that today I would tell you everything. And every day I found a reason to put it off. Why? Was all Tom could squeeze out. Because I love you, she said simply. And I knew I could lose you for it. You lied to me, he said softly, all these years. I've been me, Kate countered. The way I'd always felt. I was born in someone else's body, Tom. You can't imagine what that's like. You should have told me before the wedding. Yes, I should have, she lowered her head. And it's my fault, my cowardice. It was getting harder every day. At first I thought, let him get to know me, love me for who I am. Then I was afraid of ruining what we had. Tom came into the room and sank heavily into the chair across from her. Who are you? He asked. Really? I'm Kate, she answered firmly. I've always been Kate, even when I was called by another name. Kevin, Tom said, and she flinched as if struck by a blow. I buried him years ago, Kate said quietly. It wasn't me. It never was. And me, who am I then? Tom grinned bitterly. A man who married a transgender man without knowing it? You're the man I love. Kate reached for him, but he recoiled. Tom, please. I'm still the same. No, he shook his head. Everything has changed. He stood up and walked to the bar, pulled out a bottle of whiskey and poured himself a full glass. He drank it down, feeling the alcohol burn his throat. You never would have told me if I hadn't found out, he said, pouring another. I would have, Kate countered. I've been preparing for this. You lie, Tom said. You're good at it. Kate stood up and walked over to him. Tom, I understand your anger, but think about it. Has anything changed in our feelings? Who I am to you? Everything has changed, he yelled, throwing the glass at the wall. You're not who I thought you were. I'm the same Kate you fell in love with. Her voice shook. The one who makes you breakfast, laughs at your jokes, cuddles you at night. That's still me. No. He shook his head. You're... Who? She asked quietly. Tell me. Tom didn't answer. He walked past her to the stairs up to the bedroom. In the bedside table under a stack of magazines lay a pistol. .45 caliber left over from his father. He kept it for home defense, never thought he'd... Tom? Kate came into the bedroom. What are you doing? He turned to her, clutching the gun. Her eyes widened with horror. Tom, please, she whispered. Let's have a conversation. I'll explain everything. Explain what? He grinned. How you pretended to be a woman. How you deceived me. How you let me... He paused, feeling the nausea coming on. I wasn't pretending, Kate said quietly but firmly. I am a woman. I've always been a woman on the inside. Shut up! Tom shouted, raising his gun. No more lies! Kate took a step toward him, her face pale but determined. Tom, I love you. Whatever you're thinking right now, it's the truth. The only truth that matters. You ruined my life, he whispered. I gave you love, she countered. Real, genuine love. Isn't that more important than anything else? He looked at her, so beautiful, so dear, and alien at the same time. His mind flashed with fragmentary thoughts. What would his colleagues, friends, his daughter from his first marriage say if they found out? How would he look them in the eye? How would he live with that knowledge? Go away, he said. Pack your things and go. No, Kate shook her head. This is our home. This is our life. I won't let fear destroy it. She stepped toward him, holding out her hand. Give me the gun, Tom. We'll get through this, together. Stay back, he warned, backing away. I love you, she repeated, taking another step. And I know you love me, not the person I once was, but who I am. Tom backed away, resting his back against the wall. The hand with the gun trembled. I can't, he whispered. I can't live with this. You can, Kate said softly, coming very close. We can. I'll help you. She reached out for the gun. Tom looked into her eyes, the same eyes he'd fallen in love with 2 years ago. Eyes full of love even now. He felt the anger inside him mingle with confusion, disgust, fear, and a love that never went away. Don't touch me, he wheezed. She touched his cheek gently. You still love me, Tom. I can see that. He jerked from her touch like an electric shock. And at that moment, a gunshot rang out. Kate jerked back, a red stain on her white blouse. Her eyes widened in surprise and pain. She staggered and slowly settled to the floor, clasping her hands to her chest. Tom, she whispered. The gun fell from his numb fingers. Tom collapsed to his knees beside her, staring in horror at the blurring bloodstain. No, 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 he mumbled. Kate, I didn't mean to. I didn't... She smiled weakly, holding out her bloody hand to him. It's... okay, she whispered. Yep. Understand. Hold on. Tom frantically searched for his cell phone. I'll call an ambulance. It's going to be okay. He dialed 911, his voice breaking, dictating the address. Then he leaned over her again, holding a crumpled towel to her wound. Kate, don't die, he begged. Please. She looked up at him with a wan gaze. I'm sorry that I didn't tell you before. Her voice was barely audible. Yet was so afraid of losing you. Shh, don't talk. Tom stroked her hair, feeling the tears flowing down his cheeks. Help will be here soon. Hold on. I loved you, Kate whispered. I really did. Her eyes closed, her breathing becoming ragged. Tom sat beside her, holding her hand, and realized with horror what he had just done. He had destroyed the one person who truly loved him, because of fear, prejudice, and pride. Sirens sounded in the distance. Ambulance sirens mingled with the howl of police cars. Tom sat on the edge of the bed as the paramedics rushed toward Kate. Their movements were quick, honed. Some pushed him aside, some asked questions that he answered mechanically, unable to hear his own voice. No pulse, one of the medics said after a brief examination. Let's start resuscitation. The policemen entered right after them, 2 in uniform and a man in a gray suit. They took one look at the scene, a bloody woman on the floor, a gun nearby, a man frozen in a daze, Mr. Baker? The man in the gray suit addressed him. I'm Detective Hugo Wintwick. What happened here? Tom watched as the paramedics administered cardiopulmonary resuscitation to Kate. Her face was pale, almost waxy. I shot my wife, he said quietly. You need to come with us, Wintwick said. And there was no judgment or sympathy in his voice, just professional detachment. The officers handcuffed Tom. He didn't resist. As he walked past the medics, he heard, time of death, 20 hours and 37 minutes. Something snapped inside him. Kate was gone. His wife, his love, his life gone. And he himself had taken her away. In the patrol car, Tom sat staring at one point. He spent the entire drive to the station in silence, staring out the window at the city whizzing by. A city where he had had a normal life until this morning. At the station, he was led into an interrogation room. Gray walls, a table, 3 chairs, a mirror behind which he knew was a surveillance room. Detective Wintwick joined him 10 minutes later, carrying a folder and a tape recorder. Mr. Baker, do you understand your rights? Wintwick asked. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. I understand, Tom interrupted him. And I want to tell you what happened. Wintwick nodded and turned on the tape recorder. For the record, the interview of Thomas James Baker, March 28th, beginning at 21:30. He looked at Tom. Tell us what happened tonight. Tom took a deep breath. I shot my wife. Kate is dead because of me. He fell silent, trying to gather his thoughts. I found out something about her. Something she'd kept from me the entire 2 years we'd known each other. The whole 1.5 years of marriage. What exactly was she hiding? Wintwick asked. Tom looked at him, realizing how ridiculous and wild the truth would sound. She used to be a man, he said. Before we met, she'd undergone sex reassignment surgery. The detective showed no surprise as he made notes in his notebook. And you found out today? Yesterday, Tom corrected. From our family doctor. And today I found proof. I see, nodded Wintwick. And what happened when you confronted her with it? Bumped her off? We talked. She confessed. I was shocked, angry. Tom ran his hand over his face. I pulled out a gun. I don't remember why. I didn't mean to. He shook his head. She came up to me, tried to take the gun away, and it went off. By itself? Wintwick clarified. Tom looked at his hands. No, I pulled the trigger, but I didn't mean to. It was... I don't know. Are you saying it was an accident? Yeah, I'm not sure, Tom answered honestly. I was so angry, so confused, but I didn't plan to kill her. Had your wife been threatened before? The detective asked. No, never. Have you? Any history of violence? Never, Tom said firmly. Not with Kate, not with my first wife. Wintwick nodded, making another note. Tell me about your marriage to Kate. Tom began to talk about their meeting, the quick affair, the wedding, about the happy 1.5 years together, about how he loved her. The detective listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When Tom finished, Wintwick turned off the recorder. That's all for now, he said. You will be taken to your cell. You will be arraigned in the morning. Tom spent the night in the cell, not sleeping a wink. Kate's face was before his eyes, the surprised look on her face as the bullet entered her body, the blood spreading over the white cloth, the last exhalation. I loved you, truly. In the morning, he was charged with second-degree murder. The court-appointed attorney, a tired, middle-aged woman, said she would ask for a reclassification to manslaughter. There are mitigating circumstances, she explained. Severe emotional distress, no prior intent. Tom nodded, though he didn't care. What did it matter how many years he spent in prison? Kate was dead, and no sentence would bring her back. The next few days passed like a blur. Bail hearing, denied. Meetings with his lawyer, paperwork. Detective Wintwick showed up several times for more questions about their relationship with Kate, her past, how Tom learned the truth. After a week of detention, Wintwick didn't come alone. With him was a young woman Tom recognized immediately, Susan Gray, Kate's best friend. Miss Gray wants to talk to you, the detective explained. It's part of the investigation. Susan sat down across from Tom, looking at him, not with hatred as he had expected, but with a kind of deep sadness. I wanted to see you, she began. I wanted to understand. Understand what? Tom asked quietly. What had happened that night? How the man Kate loved so much could... She didn't finish the sentence. Tom shook his head. I don't know, he answered honestly. It was like I was out of my mind. The truth about who Kate was, it just Turned my world upside down. Susan stared at him for a long moment before she spoke again. You know she was in love with you at first sight? From that day at the cafe. She came to me that night and said, Sue, I met him, the one, and I've never seen her so happy. Tears came to Tom's throat. Why didn't she tell me? Why did she hide it? Out of fear, Susan answered simply. She'd been burned so many times. Men had left when they found out about her past, some with disgust, some with pity, but they all left. And she truly loved you. She was afraid of losing you. Is that why she chose to lie? She never lied about her feelings, Susan said. Everything between you, her love, her care, her tenderness, it was all true. She just couldn't find the courage to talk about the past. And I couldn't handle the truth when I found out. Tom grinned bitterly. And I killed her. Susan wiped away a tear. I spoke to Dr. Parker, she said. He's remorseful for breaking doctor-patient confidentiality. He says he never thought you'd... Neither did I, Tom interrupted her. I never thought I was capable of such a thing. Do you know what she was going to tell you? The night you found her papers. She called me in the afternoon asking for advice on what to say. She had the courage, Tom. Finally. Tom closed his eyes, feeling those words stabbing sharp needles into his heart. I want you to know who Kate was, Susan continued. Not Kevin. Kate. She was born in someone else's body, but she was always Kate inside. Knew from childhood that something was wrong, that she wasn't who she was thought to be. Her parents disowned her when she told them the truth at 18. We met in college when she still looked like a guy but already knew who she really was. Susan talked about Kate's struggle to be herself. Years of therapy, hormone treatments, painful surgeries. About her fears, her hopes, her dreams. About how she built a new life, found herself in interior design, finally felt in her body. She was the brightest person I knew, Susan finished. Despite everything she went through, she kept her kindness and faith in people. And she loved you with all her heart, Tom. I know that for a fact. Tom sat stunned by this story, this life he had cut short. A life of pain and struggle and misunderstanding. And in the end, love, true love that he had destroyed with his own hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. So sorry. So am I, Susan replied quietly, standing up. For Kate's sake, I hope you find a way to live with it. After 2 months in pretrial detention, Tom underwent a psychological evaluation. Dr. Michael Reed, a forensic psychologist, spent several long sessions with him, dissecting his relationship with Kate, his reaction to the revelation of her secret, his emotional state at the time of the shooting. You experienced the most severe emotional shock, Dr. Reed explained. In an instant, your worldview, your idea of your life, your marriage, your identity, everything was called into question. Does that justify murder? Tom asked bitterly. No, the psychologist shook his head. Nothing can justify taking a life, but it can explain how a man with no criminal record, no violent tendencies, committed such an act in a moment of extreme psychological stress. I didn't mean to kill her, Tom said quietly. I really didn't. I believe you, Dr. Reed nodded. Your reaction was primitive, if I may say so. A reaction to an existential threat to your identity, to your idea of yourself and your life. And now? Tom asked. What about me now? Right now, you are experiencing a deep realization of what you have done, the psychologist answered. You are going through the stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. But in your case, this process is complicated by the fact that you are the cause of the loss. Tom nodded. He understood what the doctor was talking about. Every night he woke up in a cold sweat, seeing Kate's face in the last moments of her life. Every day he replayed the scene of their conversation in his head, imagining how things might have been different if he had only listened, only tried to understand. The trial began 4 months after his arrest. Tom's lawyer had built a defense of affect, a temporary loss of judgment due to extreme emotional distress. The prosecutor insisted on murder committed with special cruelty motivated by hatred. In court were witnesses, Dr. Parker, who admitted to breach of medical confidentiality, Susan, who told about Kate's life, psychologists, neighbors, colleagues, Tom. Every word about Kate tore at his heart. Every mention of their happy marriage was like a knife in his chest. On the last day of the sessions, before sentencing, Tom was given the last word. He stood up, feeling the stares of the jury, the judge, the audience. I killed my wife, he began, the person I loved most in the world. I killed her because of fear, because of misunderstanding, because of my own prejudices. I can't justify myself, and I don't ask for leniency. I deserve to be punished for what I did." His voice trembled, but he continued, "But I want everyone here to know this. Kate was an amazing person. Strong, kind, loving. She went through so much pain to become the person she always felt she was, and in an instant, I blew it all away. I don't deserve to be forgiven, but I want everyone to know that I am truly sorry for what I did. And I will be sorry for the rest of my life." He sat down, feeling the tears running down his cheeks. The jury deliberated for almost 24 hours before reaching a verdict: guilty of manslaughter with extenuating circumstances. Tom was sentenced to 7 years in prison. In prison, he read a lot. Books about gender identity, transgender experiences, memoirs, and research, not to justify himself, but to understand. He tried to imagine what it would feel like he was in someone else's body, to look in the mirror and see someone who isn't yourself. What pain, what loneliness must Kate have felt all her life before the transition. He kept a journal, writing down his thoughts, his memories of Kate, his moments of realizing the depth of his misunderstanding and prejudice. Sometimes he would reread his early entries and see how his thinking gradually changed, how he learned to accept and understand what he had once rejected with such destructive force. In his 3rd year of incarceration, Tom asked permission to participate in an educational program to combat transphobia and gender bias. He told his story, the story of a man whose fear and misunderstanding led to tragedy. His story was a cautionary tale, a lesson about the cost of prejudice and intolerance. After one such lecture, a young man approached him. "My sister is a transgender woman," he said. Didn't always understand her. Thank you for your story. It made me think." Tom felt tears coming to his throat. Maybe Kate's death wasn't in vain. Maybe through his story, through his remorse, something would change in this world, at least for one person. He was paroled after 5 years. Susan came to his parole hearing, supporting his petition, an act of mercy he didn't expect. After his release, he moved to another city, taking a modest job with a construction company. In his new apartment, Tom hung a picture of Kate, the one from their wedding. Every day he looked at it, remembering the cost of his own ignorance and fear. And on the anniversary of her death, he always went to the cemetery where she was buried, leaving flowers and asking for the forgiveness he would never receive. Sometimes Tom would give lectures at colleges, schools, community centers, telling her story. A story of love, fear, misunderstanding, and irreparable loss. A story of how prejudice can destroy lives. He didn't seek forgiveness or understanding for himself, only the hope that his experience would help others avoid a similar tragedy. At times like this, it seemed to him that Kate's spirit was somewhere near. Not forgiving, he didn't seek forgiveness, but maybe understanding. And that was enough. In his new life, Tom carried the weight of what he had done as a constant reminder of the price of intolerance. But he also carried the light, the desire to make a difference in the world, to make it a little more understanding, a little more accepting. It was his redemption, his journey. And even though that journey would never lead to forgiveness, it was the only thing that made sense after that fateful night when fear overcame love.